I think it is very important to observe what is happening with Putin, the way he speaks and how he travels Russia, because it tells us a lot about the situation inside the country in general. And here in Ukraine, we all understand that Putin is a classical bully, which means he is totally unprepared to defend his own country. He only planned to conduct war on the Ukrainian territory or in Lithuania or Poland if we fall. But he was totally unprepared to fight war on the Russian territory, and that is the new reality. And whenever something big happens, for example, Ukrainian drones are able to reach deeper into the Russian rear, when we take control over the skies above Moscow, because this is the reality. And we don't talk enough about the fact that it's not just cancelled flights, it's the reality of Moscow now. And many people who for decades believed they were totally safe in the capital of the Russian Federation, this is where most of his friends, oligarchs lived, and the so-called decision makers. Now, if Moscow is not protected, everybody in the rest of the Russian regions understand that they are under constant threat. This is the reality of war that all of them wanted, but simply could not imagine on their territory. And Putin has very predictable behavior. Whenever he has big problems, he disappears from this public space. And he doesn't give interviews even to these Kremlin mouthpieces that we all know. The interviews are staged, the meetings with the children are staged, everything. So for a very long period of time, he did not travel Russia. It was more than 150 days or something. And many spoke about that because there were big problems in regions like Tuapse after one of the largest oil refineries kept burning for weeks and people spoke about oil rain. He did not come to see them. In many other regions, people experienced problems either caused by the war or by Putin's economic mismanagement and the fact that he definitely didn't have enough money for his 3-day operation to last almost 5 years. That's why many criticized him for not answering the questions, not appearing on public, and that is his typical behavior. He crawls into many of his bunkers. But now, as the gasoline crisis spreads, he began traveling Russia, partially because I think he relocates a lot of stuff. And we can actually talk a little bit more about that because it's not just Putin moving deeper to Siberia, it's also Putin literally closing his residences, one of his favorites in Vladai, which is in Sochi region that is an active war zone now on the Russian territory, and he stopped visiting this residence, which was his favorite, and his rumored wife or mistress, Alina Kabaeva, lived there all summers. They actually destroyed a big part of the residence and it's no more visited. And his huge yacht was relocated to the Sea of Barents, which is within reach of any drone, but this is close to the Northern Fleet of the Russian Federation, definitely not a place where somebody wants to yacht and spend some time on board. So he began traveling, and I even think in future they may relocate him somewhere, at least in his network of bunkers. But what I also see that a lot of Russians are happy when Putin visits their region, not because they love him, but because during that day or a day before, they have gasoline in gas stations for normal prices. They love staging these visits. They do some repairs. They can even paint roads for them to look more attractive. Because another reminder, Russia is already the largest country in the world with extremely poorly maintained territories and households and utilities. So they definitely do not need new territories. They need to take care of theirs. But right now, when he travels to Irkutsk, to some Siberian cities, people report that for a short period of time, they have no problems with gasoline. in the country that was once a gas station of the world. And this is due to our Ukrainian drone sanctions. So people keep reporting such visits, but it is also a proof of instability, serious crisis, and Putin beginning some of his work before the September elections in Russia. In Russia, there are no elections, but every such period is still a stress point for the Kremlin. And right now, the support is perhaps the lowest ever. Right now in Ukraine, we experience quite a difficult period in course of this war. Russia traditionally escalates, knowing that we lack air defense. And unfortunately, this is not just local Ukrainian shortage, but from what I understand is a global problem with the military supplies after a number of conflicts and wars. And Russians use this very evil window of opportunity. That's why June and July 2026 were the deadliest months for the Ukrainian civilians. For example, in July alone, they targeted Ukraine with 376 different kinds of missiles, and that led to 170 civilians killed in Russian attacks. Those who follow the updates from Ukraine know that the front line isn't moving. And sometimes we even demonstrate success and regain Ukrainian territories, which is a huge victory. But from the other point of view, many compare it to the First World War when we had a stalemate and the front lines weren't moving. It's all because of a huge kill zone created by various drones from the Ukrainian side and from the Russian side. And this zone, gray zone, kill zone, keeps growing, which actually seriously changes the way the wars are fought in the 21st century. And here I can say without any exaggeration that I'm sure Ukrainian experience will be super important for NATO and for other countries who think about their defense in the conditions of the 21st century war, satellites, internet, artificial intelligence, and different kinds of drones that do the job. And nobody feels that we want to surrender or something. And I'm very happy that those foreigners who visit Ukraine, they say that everything looks so normal until you experience an attack, a ballistic attack or a drone attack. And this is both good and bad. Good that we are a normal country that is fighting to survive and then to live a normal life despite all the attacks and traumas. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of every Ukrainian who, like me, stays here, buys coffee, travels, I don't know, donates. And this is what pushes our country to continue living as if everything was normal. But it's also bad that we have to experience those ballistic attacks. We also see that Russia has already a shortage of missiles because many of their attacks are again done by North Korean missiles. For example, a whole family was killed in Kryvyi Rih with a North Korean missile, which once again highlights how global this conflict is and how important for us in the West, to which Russia constantly attributes Ukraine. And that's exactly how I feel, to stay united because it's a global threat. But we are super determined to do the job. We have a lot of success in regaining our territory, in bringing war back to Russia, which is very important. And now, not just the bordering with Ukraine regions like Belgorod and Kursk are an active war zone, but also Moscow, St. Petersburg, and even behind the Urals, Russia's natural shelter, which saved a lot of their military production for decades, but is no more safe again because of the drone warfare.